G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Draw with Jazza. I'm Jazza and today we're going to be drawing Cloud from Final Fantasy VII as requested by Dan McDonald from our Let's Draw live stream over on Justin.tv. So if you're interested in joining future live stream sessions and getting your request in on the video, make sure to click the link in the description to go to the channel and subscribe, or to follow me on Facebook where I announce where I'm doing the live stream, or on Twitter. So getting started, as always, the first thing we want to do is really outline the pose. So I'm going to start outlining the proportions. So I want the head to be about here, like this. And then I want to get the flow of the body, and I want a really sort of relaxed pose. So I want to bring the back angled like this, the front like that. So we've got this sort of curved line. And then I'm going to start putting in the torso and the hips, and then this front leg, and then the back leg. So we're starting off with basically a stick figure. Okay, so this is my stick figure so far, and I continue to add to it. So this is where a shoulder will go. I'm going to have his arm. The good thing about drawing construction lines is we can really just muck around with it and improvise our way through until we're happy with the result. So I'm just going to change the position of the head, for example. And now I want the iconic sword thing, that massive ass sword he has, resting on his shoulder. Is that an appropriate size? I'm not entirely sure. I think the more ludicrous the size, the more appropriate it is. And then I'm going to draw his back shoulder and arm coming up and holding this ridiculously sized weapon of his. So now that I've got the really rough sketch in, just really rough, I'd start adding meat to the bones, as it were. So this acts as bones of the construction, and now I get to go in and start adding thickness. So adding some muscle onto this arm. Even though he's a bit of a scrawny dude, we're just going to roughly sort of outline how this goes. Now he's in a leaning back pose, so I want this front leg to be straight and the other leg to come forward, and that also creates a bit of a three-dimensional look when the legs are separated. When one leg is here and the other leg comes forward, a bit like that. I actually don't like the hand on the hip. I think it weakens the pose. So I think if I bring this down and give him a closed fist, I think that gives it a little bit more strength. I think this front leg has a bit too much of a bend in it as well. So we're going through and we're finding the things that are for or against the final look that we're going for, and then we're just going through and refining that. So I'm going to go in a fast forward mode now so you don't get too bored, and just go through and start refining the sketch and adding some detail. So here we are, I've got my pencil work mostly done and have refined the overall look of the character. Basically what I do is I start off with the anatomy, and as you can tell I've added everything on top of that. So I've done the anatomy and I did the meat on the bones, like I said, and then I begin to add on top of that by putting the clothes in the important places. So for example, the most accentuated areas are easiest to address first. Things like that spiky head thing he has going on in his hair, the shoulder pad, the gloves, and more features as well. Another thing to keep in mind too is when I draw the pants, even though they're baggy, you still want to work with the form. So you still want to work with having it puff out a little bit around where the femur is, where the quads are. I think they're called quads. And then come in a little bit at the knee just to indicate that there is a knee there. And then you can puff out a bit as well after that. So even though they're puffy, baggy pants, you still want to have a little bit of the figure indicated. It just makes the piece a bit more interesting. It makes the silhouette make a little more sense. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go through and do the line work. And the line work for this one is going to be slightly different to a lot of my other Let's Draw videos in that it's going to be really fine. I really want to go through and do some really fine line work. And so I'm going to get my smallest fine liner, which is a 0.1. And I'm going to go through and do all the line work of the piece, and at the very end you'll see that there's quite a lot of detail that I can add, and I'm going to be adding as much detail as I can. Now that I've finished my line work, I get to refine the image, and this is one of the best parts of it. This is really fun because we get to see the image just get a lot of polish very quickly. So first things first, there is a lot of construction line work here, and it's quite busy. And because there's a lot of fine line work, they tend to clash a little bit as well. So often I like leaving construction lines, but in this case, I'm actually going to go through and gently get rid of them. So I've finished erasing my construction line work, and you see how very quickly it's like the image is something quite different. It looks quite crisp. So in adding my final pieces of refinement, I'm going to get a slightly thicker marker, just a fine liner still, and I'm going to go around the edges of the outline of everything that has a hard edge and is overlaying other things. So for example here, and then around the sword and things like that. So I'm going to go around the whole piece and add a thicker outline. And make sure I add any detail that I might have missed along the way. Now that I've finished the edge line work and everything's kind of clear and crisp and we don't have the construction lines anymore, I'm in a place where I feel like I'm nearly done, but I just want to add some finishing touches, and that will be getting my pencil again and just adding little bits of darker shade. Now, I don't mean I'm two-tone shading, because in the past I've done some two-tone shading like cell shading, but in this case I actually think the clear, clean line work actually really complements the image. So to go along with that, rather than subdivide areas with cell shading, I'm going to find the darker areas that the character has on the costume. For example, this jumper is a dark sort of charcoal. Now I don't want to do it too much and in too many areas, but in using my reference image, I'm going to find areas of his costume that are much darker than other areas, and the rest I'll leave completely blank and white with line work. So it didn't take much to add that little bit of refinement. If you go over the edges in any places, it's quite easy to just simply neaten them up with an eraser, and then you're done. So I'm happy with how this turned out. This was, as I mentioned at the start of the video, requested by Dan McDonald, and so as is tradition, I'm going to dedicate this to Dan McDonald. So thank you very much, Dan McDonald, for requesting this in the live stream. If any of you want to join the future Let's Draw Live and get your request in the video, make sure to click the link in the description to join us on Justin.tv. Otherwise, until next time, thank you for watching, and I will see you later.